Hey guys, I'm back. I'm making another video. I was a little bit sort of neglectful of my general YouTube thing. I haven't written any scripts or really done anything up until about a few days ago when I started working on a new video. That wasn't this one. But then I mentioned to a couple of my four of my trusted friends that I was writing a new fic based on a medical event that happened in my own life, specifically Wilfred getting a retinal detachment, which happened to me twice, and their reaction to it, while not negative in any way, kind of made me realize that I wanted to do a bit of an extended talk on it, so I have temporarily shelved the video that I was working on a couple of days ago in favor of this one. I guess everyone's kind of going crazy about it because this time I'm very honest about the fact that these fics take from my own personal life and aren't necessarily just completely my imagination, and people seem to have thoughts on it, which it's funny because I didn't expect people to have thoughts. I mean, they can if they want to, it's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of funny and I did want to talk about it. I mean, I don't generally tend to talk about my disability anyway, just because it's kind of boring and it's not really probably what people want to hear about. And I mean, why would I need to talk about it? You guys aren't friends with me because of it, so it just seems a bit weird to go real ham on all of the grisly details because you don't want to hear it and I don't really want to talk about it either, but I'm going to talk about it just for a little bit because I feel like something needs to be said, and I'm going to internally combust if I don't say something about it. So first, to set the stage, at one point when I was about 16 and still in high school, I went to see a therapist for a brief period of time, and this was completely unrelated to the disability side of things, for one. And at the time, Snowpiercer wouldn't come out for another year. I wasn't a very popular writer like I am now, and I was still very heavily in my annoying Game of Thrones phase. Not to say that Game of Thrones is annoying, just that I personally was annoying about it, and I'm continuously grateful that none of you knew me back then. Anyway, I made the semi-mistake of mentioning that I write fan fiction, which had the whole emotional hurt comfort angle primarily. This was way before I did all of the rape and death and violence. That would have been fun to talk about. And the therapist said to me, "Do you think this fixation on this subject in your writing is because you're trying to process your own feelings about all the traumatic experiences you've had in your life?" And that sort of threw me for a massive loop. One, because it was completely untrue, and second, I'd never even thought about it. But then I stopped seeing that therapist, again for reasons unrelated, and then I didn't think about it until I started doing these fics recently, like Angelfish and that one about the Wilfred retinal detachment. And then people are now sort of telling me things like, "Oh, are you trying to process your thoughts on your own experiences, the brief amount of experience I've told my friends, or am I trying to raise awareness?" And I mean, it's not a bad thing to assume that. It's a valid thing to assume, because if you looked at it from the outside and didn't see what my thoughts were on the matter, you would think that. And I'm definitely not mad or offended at anyone for saying that, because again, what else were you meant to think? But it was over text, and the Tumblr messaging is really shit. And I could never really sort of come up with a good way of not even rebutting it, but just sort of telling people about why I was doing this. And then I sort of thought, oh, well, I'll do a video, because videos are good for that kind of thing. And I guess the crux of the matter is that I feel like people are thinking that I'm writing these fics, which have this very heavy medical event side to them because I'm disabled, but I'm actually not. The fact that I myself personally am disabled factors very little into it, other than to provide superficial inspiration for the events that go on within the fic. I feel like even if I wasn't disabled and didn't have all of these experiences, I probably would have dabbled in it anyway. And the fact of the matter is that big medical events like this are really difficult for people to handle, as they would be. And the only reason that I'm so blasé about it to my own friends is that it's been my life literally since I was born. I don't know anything different. What would my life be like if I didn't experience these things? I don't know. I have no clue. But most people who do experience them as one-off, traumatic events, and they really, really struggle with this. Like, people aren't going to act the way that they normally do because they are stressed, they're in survival mode, they're having to deal with losing something they previously took for granted sometimes, as Wilfred does in losing half of his sight, and they may or may not be in huge amounts of pain as the cherry on top of everything, like Wilfred in the angelfish fic. And it's interesting to get into the mind of these characters and explore how they would react to each event. Personally, I don't think of these super medical fics as like a way to process my own trauma or raise awareness, even though it is kind of nice to tell people about those things. It's just another thematic device for me. And people keep telling me to be careful and not trigger myself, which is valid, and I appreciate their concern, but like, as I write these fics, I realize they are only similar to my experience on a very surface level way. Like, Wilfred's in his late 50s at the time of these fics. He's not going to recover the same way as a teen, like I was when they happened, purely because of his age. We're not even going to get into the emotional differences between him as an able-bodied person and me, a disabled person since literally the moment I began existing. But like, most of the events that happen in that retinal detachment fic, when you see them, didn't actually happen to me. I didn't lose my vision, I didn't panic, I didn't throw up after the fact. Actually, I was the youngest patient to do an awake eye surgery. Weird flex, I know. The angelfish fic was closer to my own experience, but even that had differences. I didn't freak out because I was in pain or anything. You get it. Basically, those fics are based on extremely superficial similarities and don't actually represent my own life accurately. It's kind of funny how people assume that if you're writing fics about dark topics like this, not just disability or like major events, medical events, especially ones where you openly take from your own trauma, like you're trying to process it, like, no, not really. I have therapists and parents and alcohol and friends for that. Sorry. There's nothing wrong with writing fic like that for the express purpose of processing traumatic events. I had my whole fan fiction as escapism phase, for God's sake. But, like, I guess my point is that it's not like that for everyone. And, like, this isn't me vague blogging about any specific person who said any of this. I'm actually kind of touched that people would go to that kind of effort and think, oh, she's trying to raise awareness or she's trying to process her own trauma. Like, I don't generally expect people to think about those two very separate things of my fics and the fact that I'm disabled and went through all of that. I don't think or expect people to marry those two ideas together in their heads, but I did want to clarify it a little bit because, well, I wanted to clarify it, and also I haven't done a serious video in a while, but I could never do it over text. You know, just texting it is really hard, and I realized that doing it in an unscripted video would be a lot easier. So I guess that is the point of this video, which is now almost 9 minutes long out of nowhere. Most of it was unscripted. This is what happens when you let me ramble on with no adult supervision. The Wilfred retinal detachment fic, I'm not sure when it's going to come out. I'm not even sure when I'm going to be finished with it. Definitely not anytime soon, because I posted the Wilfred Harvey Sex Gone Wrong fic, and I don't like adding fics to series one after the other. I like to kind of try and mess it up a little bit, so I'll probably release the other ones I have on my docket first before I even get into that one. But I think I've given you enough background information to know what's going to happen without completely ruining it. I've got a Mel and Alex fic from the Mel and Alex Steal a Train long fic, and then I got another one from Audrey and Zara, and then I have the Ben Harvey hair dye fic, which is based on the terrible dream I had where Bennett was blonde. Seriously, I still freak out about that dream whenever I think about it too hard. So that's 3 fics ahead of that one. So maybe in the middle of next week. I don't know. Peace out. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.